Hey, what's up, creepy crew, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're getting into some true crazy X stories, and oh boy, I have some wild ones for you guys today, so you definitely want to stick around for these. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below if you've ever had an ex who showed some seriously disturbing red flags. I read every single comment, and I really appreciate all the support. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into some scary stories about crazy and creepy exes. I still remember the exact moment Brittany texted me, "We need to talk," in the middle of a Tuesday workday. Not a call. A text. At the time, I didn't think much about why that detail mattered, but she obviously didn't want to say it out loud, didn't want anyone nearby to hear her ask whatever she was about to ask me. I need to back up a little. I had moved to this city about 4 months before that text. Right after graduating, took a marketing job. Didn't know basically anyone. I'm not someone who goes out a lot in general, and I really didn't know where to go even if I wanted to. So most evenings I was just home, and that's how Dennis showed up. On one of those dating apps you download when you're bored and slightly lonely and tell yourself you're just curious. He wrote well, actually. That sounds like a weird thing to notice first, but it stood out. No weird openers, no pushing. He made jokes that were actually funny, not the kind that are trying too hard. We moved to regular messaging pretty quickly, I think within a week, and then we were talking every single day. For like 3 weeks. I thought it was going somewhere. Then he asked for voice messages. Said texting felt too distant, that he wanted to hear my voice. I get it, right? That's not that weird of a thing to ask for. So I started sending those. And then one day he said he wanted a quick video, just a hello, just to see my face. I recorded something really brief, like 15 seconds. Just waving and saying hi. And I sent it. That was fine. But then he asked for another one a couple weeks later and I said no a few times. I don't remember exactly how many times, but it was more than once. He had this way of framing things that didn't feel like pressure in the moment, but absolutely was. He'd say stuff like, "We've already shared so much. I've told you things I don't tell anyone. I'm not hiding anything from you. Are you hiding something from me?" He'd say, "It sounds like you just don't trust me the way I trust you." And I don't know. I was new to the city, and I was lonely, and I genuinely liked talking to him. So I recorded another video, and I sent it, and within maybe 2 minutes of hitting send, I had this feeling that I needed to go back and undo it. I couldn't tell you why exactly. Just wrong. I just knew something was wrong. Dennis kept texting me normally after that. For weeks. No indication anything was off, no weird comments, nothing. I told myself I was being paranoid. I mostly believed it. Then 3 or 4 weeks after I sent that video, Brittany texted me at lunch. We met in one of the small conference rooms. She closed the door behind her, which she wouldn't normally do, and she pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. Someone had messaged her on LinkedIn, account with no profile photo. Random sounding name, and the message had a link in it. She said she hadn't clicked it, but LinkedIn had pulled a preview thumbnail automatically. She recognized me in it. I didn't say anything for a while. I just sat there looking at the screenshot. Then she told me that her friend Danielle, who also worked in our office, had gotten an identical message the same day. Danielle opened the preview too, and she also recognized who it was. Dennis had found both of them through my LinkedIn, which I'd never made private because I genuinely had no reason to think that mattered. He'd gone through my connections and targeted people I actually knew. Brittany asked me if I knew who sent it. I nodded. I couldn't figure out what else to do. I don't remember walking back to my desk. I know I did because I was there for the rest of the afternoon, but I can't actually recall the walk. I just remember sitting there for the next few hours, opening and closing the same browser tabs, and not reading anything on any of them. That evening I texted Dennis. I kept it calm. No accusations, just asked what was going on, what he did. He replied pretty quickly, actually. He said that I had disappeared on him, that I'd stopped reaching out as much as I used to, and he felt like I'd just dropped him. And then he said, I'm going to write this exactly how he wrote it. He said he just wanted people to know what kind of person I was. That's it. That's what he said. I stared at my phone trying to figure out what to type back, and before I could figure anything out, he blocked me. All at once, every app, probably within a minute of sending that message, like he'd been ready to do it. I tried reaching out from a secondary account I had, and I was already blocked there too, which meant he must have already known about it or looked me up separately. I don't know. I had no way of knowing how many people got that link. I didn't know how many had opened it. I didn't know who else from my LinkedIn had received it besides Brittany and Danielle, who at least told me. The people who didn't say anything, who just saw it and moved on, or didn't recognize me or did recognize me and just didn't say a word. I had no way of finding them. No way of knowing the total number. That's the part that stayed with me the longest. Not the video itself, not even Dennis. Just the fact that I would never actually know the full extent of what he'd sent out, or to who, or what they thought when they saw it. The next day at work was rough in a way that's hard to explain. Nothing happened. That was almost the worst part. People said good morning, asked about the usual stuff, acted completely normal. And I couldn't tell if that was because nothing was wrong or because they were just being polite. Brittany had kept her mouth shut. She told me she would, and she did. Danielle too. But every time someone held eye contact with me for half a second longer than felt necessary, or laughed at something across the room and I wasn't totally sure what at, I ran through the whole thing in my head again. Over and over. That same loop. A few days after it happened, I deleted LinkedIn, then Instagram, then 2 other platforms I barely used anyway. Just wiped them. I figured the less there was to find, the better, even if the damage was already done. I asked Brittany to let me know if anything else came through. She checked periodically and said nothing did. I didn't know whether to believe that or not. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I didn't know how many other people might have gotten the link and just said nothing. That was always the part I couldn't get past. The silence didn't mean it stopped. It just meant I couldn't see it. My co-workers didn't visibly change how they treated me, at least not in any way I could point to directly. But I spent several months walking into that office feeling like the walls were slightly see-through. Like I was operating just slightly exposed at all times and had no way to confirm whether that feeling was accurate or completely in my head. I never found out which one it was. 8 months passed. I never got a clear answer on how many people Dennis actually sent that link to. Brittany checked his LinkedIn profile at some point and told me it had been deleted, gone within about a week of when everything happened. No way to trace anything from there. No way to check what other accounts he might have had, or whether he'd done the same thing to someone else before me or after. I came back to social media about 6 months later. Private accounts, no location, no employer listed anywhere. Not because I'm afraid exactly. More because I now understand what information I was handing someone when I left all of that public. My LinkedIn was the thing that let him find people who actually knew me. That was the entry point. I keep that in mind now. I don't list where I work anywhere except a resume going to someone I've already vetted. Every time I add a new connection somewhere, I think about it for a second before I confirm. Not long, just a second. That's enough. Dennis never came back. No new accounts, no messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Nothing. I don't know if that's because he moved on or because I removed enough of myself from the internet that there was nothing left to use. Both are probably partly true. I don't know if he did this to other people. I think he probably did. The way he operated was too practiced for it to have been the first time. The slow build, the framing, the way he blocked me the instant after sending that last message like he'd already planned exactly when to exit. That's not something you figure out on your first attempt. I just happened to be the one where two people knew each other well enough to compare notes. I met Cody about 3 years ago. We both used to go to the same sports bar to watch basketball. Not like we planned it. We just kept ending up at tables next to each other. Then he reached out through a mutual friend. We started texting, met up for a walk, then again a week later. He seemed normal. No pressure, no weird energy. Just a regular guy who was easy to talk to. About a month in, we made it official. And I know how this sounds, because I've said it to myself 100 times since. But the first signs didn't feel like signs. They felt like just, I don't know, him being attentive. If I didn't pick up his call, he'd call back immediately. Not like, leave a voicemail and wait. Immediately. Like within seconds. If I stayed late at work and didn't text him, sometimes I'd come out and he'd be parked near my building. He'd say he was just in the area, or that he wanted to make sure I was okay. I told him that was too much. He'd agree. He'd apologize. And then a few weeks later it would happen again, just in a slightly different way. I kept explaining it away. He had anxiety. He'd had a bad relationship before. He was just someone who needed more reassurance than most. I genuinely believed that for a while. That's the part I still can't totally make sense of. Not that he fooled me, but that I was so willing to keep filling in the blanks for him. One night he showed up at my apartment without calling. It was late. I was already in bed. I texted him through the intercom and told him I was tired and needed to be alone. He didn't leave. I could see the light from his phone screen below my window. I sent him a message saying if he wasn't gone in 5 minutes, I was calling the building manager. He left. And the next morning I called him and told him straight, "This is done. I'm not doing this anymore." He said okay. He drove away. A few hours later, he texted saying he wanted to talk. I didn't respond. Then he texted saying he knew he had a problem and he was going to fix it. I didn't respond to that either. I thought that was it. I really did. About 3 weeks went by and nothing. No calls, no texts, no showing up anywhere. I started to feel like maybe it had actually ended cleanly, which almost never happens, so I should have known better. Meredith and I had been trying to get together for a while, just a normal night out, nothing planned. We picked a bar near her place, not the sports bar, completely different part of town, nowhere I'd ever been with Cody or mentioned to him. We got there around 8, grabbed a table, ordered drinks. It was a good night, just the two of us catching up. At some point, Meredith got up to use the bathroom. I remember watching her walk away from the table, and that's genuinely the last thing I remember from that night. The next thing I knew, it was morning. I was in my own apartment, lying on my bed, still wearing my clothes from the night before. My head was pounding in a way that felt wrong. Not like a hangover, just wrong. I sat up and tried to piece together how I'd gotten home and I had nothing. I called Meredith right away, and she picked up on the second ring. She said she'd been back to the table in maybe 10 minutes, and I was gone. She thought I'd stepped outside for air, then thought maybe I'd gotten sick and left. She asked the bartender before she left. He told her I'd walked out with a guy. The guy had come up to the table while she was in the bathroom and told him I was his girlfriend and wasn't feeling well. The description she got from the bartender matched Cody. I picked up my phone from the nightstand and saw the notifications. 40-something messages from Cody, all sent while I was unconscious in my own apartment. I scrolled through them fast. Accusations first, then threats, then apologies, then threats again, cycling through like he couldn't decide which version of himself to be. A few of them I stopped reading halfway through. I deleted everything and blocked his number. then sat on the edge of my bed for a while, not really doing anything. I didn't call the police that day. I kept telling myself I would, that I just needed a few hours first, that I needed to think. What would I even say? I think my ex drugged me and took me home, but I woke up in my own apartment, and I don't remember anything, and the only evidence is a bartender's description. I talked myself in circles, and by the time evening came, I hadn't done anything. The next day was the same. About a week later, a message came in from a number I didn't recognize. Just one word. I don't want to repeat what it said. I blocked that number too, and then spent the next 3 days going back and forth about whether to change my number entirely. Eventually I did. It cost me more than I expected, and I had to update it with what felt like 100 different places, which sounds like such a stupid thing to fixate on. But that's what I remember. Sitting there updating my number in apps and thinking this is what my life looks like right now. Meredith kept checking in. She asked me a few times, gently, whether I'd talked to anyone official about what happened. I told her I was thinking about it, which was true at first, and then stopped being true. She didn't push hard. I think she understood that I'd made a decision even if I hadn't said it out loud yet. I didn't file anything. I didn't go to the police. I just wanted it to be over, and going through all of that felt like the opposite of over. It felt like handing the whole thing more time and more space in my life than I had any desire to give it. That was my reasoning. I know how it sounds now. It's been about 3 years since then. Cody hasn't shown up again. No messages, no appearing near my building, nothing. I don't know if he's still in the city. I genuinely don't know anything about where he is or what he's doing, and I've made a point of keeping it that way. I think about what Meredith said sometimes. She was right. I should have gone the next morning while everything was still recent, while I could still remember the night clearly, while the bartender could still remember the man he'd described to her, while there was still any chance of something being documented. I chose not to do that, and it was my choice, and I understood why I was making it at the time. I just wanted it gone. I wanted to close a door and not look at it anymore. I don't know if that was the right call. It probably wasn't. But I can't go back and change it now, so I try not to spend too much time on it. If you're reading this and you're in something that looks like what I described, the constant calling, the showing up, the feeling like you're always explaining away something that doesn't actually have a good explanation, go to someone. Don't wait. Don't do what I did. About 3 years ago, I signed up for an evening photography course at a local arts center. I just wanted something to do outside of work. I was a logistics manager at the time, spent the whole day in spreadsheets, and needed something that wasn't that. There were maybe 12 of us in the class, all adults, different ages. Rick sat 2 tables over from me. He didn't talk much, but when he did say something, it was usually on point, not trying to impress anyone. After the 3rd session, we ended up talking by the coffee machine in the hallway. Turned out we had similar taste in documentary photography. Then we talked again after the next class. Then we started texting. A few weeks later, we were dating. The first month was fine. We went to a couple of exhibitions. He was attentive but not overbearing. Nothing that would have made me pause, at least not then. Around week 6, I started noticing things. If I didn't reply to a message within 40 minutes, another one would come in. "You there?" And then sometimes another after that. Not aggressive, just this anxious quality that started to feel out of proportion to me. At class, he started sitting closer than he used to. When I walked to the parking lot after sessions with someone from the group, he'd catch up to us. He'd join the conversation naturally, nothing rude about it. But he was always just there. A woman in the group, Pam, asked me once, kind of offhandedly, whether Rick and I were together. And when I told her we were seeing each other, she just nodded and didn't say anything else. I didn't think much of it at the time. A few days later, I told Rick I wanted to stop things. I was direct about it, no big production. He listened, said, "Okay, got it," and left. I figured that was that. At the next class, Rick came in and sat nearby. Not right next to me, but close. He didn't say anything, just worked on his stuff. I moved to another seat. About 20 minutes later, he moved too. Not toward me exactly, but closer than he'd been. After class, he stood nearby while I packed up my things. This went on for 3 or 4 sessions. He never said anything to me, never texted, never did anything you could point to as a specific violation. He was just always in my field of view. Pam came up to me after one of those classes and said quietly, "I notice it." That was all she said. But it mattered, because it meant it wasn't just me reading into things. I didn't know what to do with something that intangible. One evening after class ended and people started filing out, I left a little earlier than everyone else. In the hallway near the stairwell, where there was no one around, Rick caught up to me. He just called my name. I stopped. He pulled out some folded papers, a printout, and said he wanted to read something aloud, because he couldn't get it across the right way otherwise. Then he started reading. It was about what he could see hadn't worked, specific things, and that he had a plan for addressing them, and that he had a picture in his head of what the next few years could look like. I stood there and listened, not because I wanted to, but because my brain just didn't produce an instruction for what to do in that exact situation. It's a strange thing, that moment when something is happening and you're present for it, but not quite processing fast enough to act. He kept reading. The hallway was empty. Then the door at the far end opened and the instructor came out with his bag. He looked at us. He asked, "Everything okay?" Just that. And that was enough. Rick folded the papers, nodded at the instructor, and walked away. The next day, I emailed the Arts Center administration. I kept it factual. What had happened over the course of the past several weeks, the parking lot, the classroom, the hallway. I didn't editorialize. I just laid out the sequence. They responded and told me the matter had been handled. I don't know exactly what was said to him or how it was framed. A few days later, Pam texted me to say he hadn't shown up to the last session. He didn't come back after that. For the next few months, I had this habit I didn't really choose to develop. Before leaving any building in the evening, I'd check the parking lot first. Just scan it, see who was out there. I did it without thinking about it, the way you check your pockets for your keys. It took about 6 months before I stopped doing it automatically. Now when I sign up for something new, a workshop, a class, anything like that, I notice that for the first couple of sessions, I'm doing a quiet inventory of the room. Who's there, where they're sitting, whether anyone is paying attention to me in a way that doesn't feel neutral. I don't do it consciously. It just happens, and then I catch myself doing it, and then I move on. I haven't seen Rick since that night in the hallway. As far as I can tell, it actually did end there. The Arts Center handled it, he left, and that was the conclusion. I'm probably right about that. What I keep coming back to, when I think about the whole thing, is how long the early part of it took to register. Not because the signs weren't there, but because each individual thing was small enough to explain away on its own. The extra messages, the seating, the way he always materialized nearby. None of it was a single clear moment where I could say, this is the thing. It was the accumulation. And by the time I understood what I was looking at, I'd already been inside it for weeks. I don't think there's a clean lesson in that. I just think that's how it tends to work, and knowing it now doesn't make me feel like I would necessarily catch it faster if it happened again. About 2 years ago, I matched with a guy named Garrett on a dating app, and honestly, the first date was fine. We met at a coffee place. He talked, he listened, he didn't spend the whole time looking at his phone. He was 31, worked in tech support, made normal jokes, nothing weird. I said yes to a second date, then a third. A few weeks in, he told me he had Asperger's. I told him that was fine, didn't change anything for me, and I meant it. But around the same time, some other stuff started coming up. Turned out a few of my coworkers lived in the same neighborhood as Garrett, and some of them actually knew who he was. One coworker mentioned he'd messaged her on Instagram out of nowhere. She'd never given him her contact info, had no idea how he found her account. Another coworker said Garrett had shown up at his apartment a couple times unannounced, just happened to be in the area. When I brought it up with Garrett, he admitted to some of it and explained that he just tends to be direct, that social cues are harder for him, that he didn't mean anything by it. I decided to give it more time. Then I met Derek. Completely separate situation. Mutual friends introduced us. Nothing to do with Garrett at all. We started talking. Somehow Garrett found out. I still don't know how, and I've thought about it a lot. After that, the messages from Garrett picked up. If I didn't respond within an hour, there'd be 3 or 4 more. Not threatening, just one after another, persistent. Then he mentioned the voices. He said he'd been experiencing internal voices that give him direction, and described it the same way you describe, I don't know, getting a notification on your phone. Just matter of fact about it. I said gently that maybe he should talk to someone professional about that. He said he already had, and that the specialist had given him a diagnosis, some very specific term I'm not going to repeat here. I asked a friend of mine who works as a clinical psychologist about it, and she said that term isn't used in actual professional practice, not in the way Garrett described it. When I asked him about that directly, he said the specialist just wasn't ready to acknowledge the truth. After that conversation, I told Garrett I thought we should stop talking. I kept it short, didn't leave a lot of room for debate. He sent back a long message. In it, he explained that he exists in what he called a parallel time layer. That was the exact phrase he used, and that from there he can observe events happening in our reality. He said he has dreams where he watches me make certain choices, and in those dreams things end badly for me. He wasn't threatening me. He was just explaining. That was the part that got to me the most, honestly. There was no anger in it, no ultimatum, just this very calm description of how he sees the world and where I fit into it. It didn't read like someone venting. It read like someone filing a report. I blocked him everywhere that same night. Every platform, his number, everything. And the next morning I texted Derek and asked if he could make sure I wasn't walking to my car alone after work for a while. A few days after I blocked him, a coworker texted me to say she'd seen Garrett standing outside our office building. Not trying to come in, not talking to anyone, just standing there looking at the entrance. Derek drove over and talked to him. Garrett said he was just passing through the area. Derek didn't argue with him or make it a confrontation, just explained clearly and calmly that showing up outside my workplace wasn't something he should be doing. Garrett nodded and left. That same week, me and Derek and 2 coworkers who already knew what was going on went to the local police station. I want to be honest about how that went because I think people expect it to be more useful than it actually is. The officer we spoke to was fine. He listened. He took notes. But he explained that without a direct threat, they couldn't issue any kind of formal order. What they could do was log the visit, create a record, and tell us to call back if anything escalated. He said that part a couple times. Call us if anything escalates. Which is another way of saying come back when something worse has happened. I understood why. I just didn't love it. We filled out what we could and left. I didn't feel safer walking out than I did walking in. But at least there was a paper trail somewhere with his name on it. I kept expecting something to happen after that. Another message from a number I didn't recognize. Another coworker texting me that they saw him somewhere. I had my phone on me constantly for about 2 weeks, checking it more than I needed to. Nothing happened. Garrett just stopped. No messages, no appearances, nothing. The coworker who'd spotted him outside our building said she never saw him there again. A month went by, then a few more. It's been close to 2 years now since all of this. I genuinely don't know what changed, whether someone in his life got through to him, whether he moved, whether he found someone else to focus on, whether the conversation with Derek actually landed in some way. I've thought about it more than I probably should, and I've never landed on a satisfying answer. At some point, I stopped trying to figure it out because it wasn't helping me. Derek still checks in about it occasionally, asks if I ever think about it or if anything feels off. I tell him no, and that's mostly true. It doesn't occupy much space in my head day to day. I don't feel like I'm watching over my shoulder when I leave work. That part did go back to normal. But there's this thing I still do that I notice sometimes. When I get a text from a number I don't have saved, I don't open it right away. I wait a few seconds, look at the preview, try to get a read on it before I open it. I've been doing that since before I even fully clocked that I was doing it. It's not fear exactly, it's just, I want a moment to know what I'm looking at before I'm already looking at it. I don't know if that goes away eventually. Maybe it does. Maybe some things just quietly become part of how you move through the world, and you don't really notice until someone asks you why you always check like that before you open your messages.